Hello guys, this is me sometimes. We do bloopers. Hello guys and welcome back. I don't like that intro. Sorry, it's too fake. Okay. One take. Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking the link or the thumbnail that brought you here. I'm so excited to have you. My name is Evie and I make videos about faith and my life as a graduate student here in the US. In today's video, I have two amazing people with me. I don't know why you are laughing.
I'm amazing. Yes, we are amazing.
We are going to be sharing what we've learned in the process of applying for internships as well as jobs. Yeah. So actually, let me start. So I'm in fourth year PhD and I am going to be interning this summer by God's grace in a pharmaceutical company. And
I will be interning in a pharmaceutical.
It's
so good to say that.
Like when you say it, I was like, oh yeah. And then Angie.
Yeah, I work in an education and experiential travel company. As a program manager.
Yes.
On travel.
Yes.
Travel. Emphasize travel.
Exactly. And it wasn't easy for us to get these opportunities,
it wasn't,
especially as international students. So we're going to be sharing how that process was, what we learned, what we would advise people to do to be able to secure their dream internships or jobs. Okay?
So I'm gonna start and say start early. The moment you land here, as international students, we don't have that luxury of I'm now in the US, I'm chilling, and I'm going to chill. I came in a weird semester because I started in the spring, and that was the last semester of the year, and then now people go for internships and summer and stuff like that. So I started applying for mine in February, and I also didn't know this information before I came here. But the people around me were talking so much about internships that I also started applying. I was just applying because I needed to work in the summer, get experience and all that. So start early. If you're coming in the fall, Lola Day started the moment she landed. Like a few weeks later is when she started. So start early, that's the thing. Also, another thing with international students is you have to apply to a field related to what you're studying. So you have to filter that. You can't be coming here to study, say, medicine and then you're applying to an engineering company. It just doesn't work. So you have to filter that information and just begin early, get your papers together.
So where should they apply? Where are they supposed to do these applications?
So there's so many places. LinkedIn for one. You need to check on LinkedIn, check on Indeed, check Handshake, yeah. And also I am 100% sure that your university has a place that maybe they post job postings. There's also there are so many Google jobs. You can actually go on Google and Google the job. And then professional associations also usually post. Like for me, if I were to search for international studies association, because that's what I studied, then they post jobs every now and then. So those are good resources to find. And just find your university and make sure you know. Also, I worked for my department as graduate assistant, so they used to post a lot of jobs there, post links there for internships, then you can find them there. There was also career fairs that I forgot to mention. So career fairs are very important. Make sure you're going to career fairs, even if you don't know what you
and then sometimes that career fair is not like public health stand. I did not say any reason.
Exactly. Even for me,
but still go.
Yeah, like for international studies, I didn't really find.
It's always for STEM, like engineering, business.
Those people.
I was actually going to say that conferences because our other roommate she got some interviews.
Yes.
She went and got her internship right? Just by going for a conference, and you can interview, you can meet people. So if you are able to, not everybody will have access to these things, but if you're able.
Once you're an adult, you can't keep quiet. Your introvert
like I'm shy.
Your introvert self will only work for you for your social life, personal life. But when it comes to looking for jobs, you can't afford to.
You have to talk.
You have to talk. You have to reach out to people. If you want to send that email and you're feeling shy about it, send it. Click send. Just click send, and then the worst thing that can happen is they'll say no, and how many times have we received rejections and we are still.
And I'll say that sometimes people don't know how to send emails for. if you don't know about ChatGPT, I'm sorry for you. But ChatGPT, you can literally say, how do I send an email to a potential employer, and then you just send literally everything, and then you can
even Grammarly helps.
Grammarly,
like there's so
there are
human resources for you to look. Yeah, so that's also important to know.
The point I'm going to talk about is the resume and cover letter. So very important. Like for me, when I came, I thought I write, so I'm like, I can't do
this.
What? Is it not just resume? I know this thing. So I was applying and nobody was answering me. It was almost like they were not seeing my application. So I had to meet with my career, and there's a career counseling department, sort of. Every school would have a version of that, I think.
Yeah.
So I had to meet with them. So they structured it. Your bullet points can't just be basic. There are words you need to use, action words. You need to use quantitative. You need to be able to quantify what you did. Also put in how you did it, what skills you used to do, and then the results. So it's like it's a very loaded bullet points that you're doing.
And it's very, very specific.
Specific.
Exactly.
Yes, concise and precise.
And also, not everything you have done in your life needs to go into
your of course. Don't put your secondary school if you had all A's. We don't care.
No, they don't care. So that's the one thing, because I have a ton of experience, but you're applying to a specific job. It's good for you to maximize on what's important for that job. Yeah, exactly. So if you worked in, say, catering business, and now you're applying to a bank, what is that catering business? And especially if you are cooking.
And if you want to talk to me
While you still got your intern.
Yeah. Also, because most resumes are usually 2 pages long. So
one and a half.
Yeah, depends. So if especially you're also trying to look at space, because right now I'm in a place where I'm interviewing people.
Okay. Manager.
I am like the last person to interview people to know where you're placed.
Really?
Yeah.
So
I have to go through resumes, and sometimes I literally don't have the time to read, because sometimes the person that's interviewing the recruiting manager is like, oh, I have this person, do you have the time to look at them? So I sometimes have 20 minutes to less than 20 minutes sometimes to look at your resume. So if you have a 10-page resume, do I have
your own?
You're on your own. Like, I want to look at your page 1, actually like the first half of your
page.
Yeah, and just be able to pick the skills that you need. So if you're writing everything, you need to feel. I know it feels bad for you to have spent 5 years in a career that's not going to show up in your resume. It's fine.
You will say it in your interview.
You'll say it in your interview because
sell yourself.
There are like transferable skills that you can mention in your interview. That I actually worked in this place and I can manage people like this, or I can manage this task. So your resume is
very, very important. And then your cover letter. So for that one, it's stressful. It's very, very stressful. But there are some places that need it. Like, not the place I'm going to intern, I actually did not write a cover letter for it. So it's not every time you need a cover letter, but there are some places. Like there was one role I also got an offer, but ended up not taking it. That particular one, I just had to slide that in. So that particular place, I did a cover letter. It was about communication. I was very interested, so I really wanted to sell my passion and everything. So, but basically, when
passion money is speaking,
you leave your PhD, go for your passion.
Please don't mind these people. So for that particular, basically what I'm saying is, for cover letter, you need to tailor it to each company. So if you're applying for a role, for instance, in a lab, it means you need to sell that you are passionate, but not only passionate, you are skillful in the lab. It has to be very, and of course, no typo. I don't even know why I'm even saying that. So try to have someone read through it. Don't feel self-sufficient. Have someone. It could be your friend. It could be someone ahead of you.
There's also this thing on both PDF and Microsoft Word where it's read aloud and it's
can you can read it.
Oh, actually, I've never used that.
I use Grammarly a lot.
And then you can even fast forward so it talks loud in case you don't want to use time. So
like for me, Grammarly is I feel like Grammarly is my assistant because sometimes I'm writing that cover letter and then it tells me your tone is not right.
Yes. yeah.
I've never actually
really got my
Grammarly.
I
I've
actually
never-
like have the premium one, so it actually tells me your tone is not right, blah blah blah. Like
It
it
writes
highlights
stuff
for
for
you.
you.
Like you need to rephrase this to sound better. Yeah. So also cover letters tire me a lot,
Yes.
but sometimes it's just a
I
must.
think just like in general to wrap up this resume and cover letter, sometimes if you're applying to one industry, you don't have to change your cover letter like all the time. You just have to maybe edit it a little bit, so it doesn't mean that every time you are doing a new cover letter from scratch. So that's something to take note of.
If you're a very like detail oriented person, that can work for you, but sometimes some people rush through it, and then with your cover letter you are comparing the job description they've written with what you already have, so it's kind of you're transferring what they want to your cover letter to say. You asked for, these people are asking for someone who can do accounting, who has handled whatever books, who has done that, so you need to mention that
In your and also in your CV, your resume.
So you can have a generic cover letter, but when you are editing it, make sure you're not using the terms used for another job to apply for this job.
Yes.
So you need to be,
You would think.
you think. Yeah, so some people also, when you're editing your cover letter, make sure if you're using a generic one, you remove the title, like the address of the other company and the job title.
I've actually done that mistake. I will tell you. I've forgotten to change the dates. I've forgotten to. So I
Change the
changed,
job
like
position.
the address was actually the right one. Then inside, you know how somewhere you now say, I would really appreciate the opportunity to work at XYZ. I did not change that one. So that's why they rejected me, perhaps.
Exactly. So you can do that, but you can have it in bold or in another color, so that when you're editing, you know this is the part I'm supposed to remove and this is the part I'm supposed to
Yep.
do.
So I'm talking on preparing for interview, and I would say I think this is the hardest part for me. Like, because when I was applying, I mean, I used Indeed and Handshake a lot, and so I think I gave myself like 20 applications per week. So I'm just like, I'll be at work, and I was using like generic cover letters because I was applying for like same positions, public health. So I would just like apply, put my information. It was not a big deal to me. Anything I see that relates. But then when I started getting callbacks, and I'm like, okay, this is serious. Because my CV, I actually, as I when she was talking about what you want to do that is related to your experience, I worked in a bank for 2 years, and I'm doing public health, and I did human physiology in undergrad.
Yeah, so it's like,
so I'm like, what kind of confusion is this? So shout out to my cousin. He's the best. So he helps me like construct my CV and put the relevant bullet points, and I guess that's why I was getting the callbacks. And so when it was time for, I remember the first one was like phone interview, and I've never done a phone interview before.
Yeah.
I remember I was like, what would I say? Oh, this thing. And then I'm like, oh, I hope I'm not talking too fast or too slow. Can they hear me? My cousin was like, just calm down, talk as very eloquent as you can, don't fret and all of that. So the phone interview is like the first stage. So it was just like a recruiter just talking to me and all of that. And so I would say to prepare, just be calm. Have like a bullet, like I always prepare like a something I want to say, talking points of okay, this is what I want to say, because they will ask you, like YouTube is my go-to place for getting information. So I have watched many videos on how do you answer this question. You know all these general questions of tell me about the time when
my god
you were a leader.
The star method.
Tell me about
star method. Scenario.
So I'd already prepared. Even though the phone interview is just a very quick, it's not. So that was just the first stage, and I remember the second one, like the second original interview where I got this job or this internship. That was the big thing. It was like a panel interview, like 3 people, directors, and I was like, and it was a lot. So I just be calm. I have talking points, watch a lot of YouTube videos, have resources, be ready to answer those questions because they will come. Either you like it or not. So be ready to give a scenario for where you were a leader, be ready to give a scenario or to say what you will like. Well, they were asking how you know about the company, read extensively. I remember they were asking me, how did you hear about the company I'm working for? And then I told them, tell them what you want to hear, what they want to hear. Don't lie, but tell them. Read extensively about the company that you are, because it will just make you look like a fool if you don't know what you're saying.
Like where are you applying to a place that
you don't know,
right? It shows like you don't have any interest.
Like I remember even like I went to their website and I'd already seen everything, and so I was saying it in my interview that working with this company will give me the opportunity to network. Literally
exactly.
everything on there. I was repeating it, so they were like, okay.
And then, sorry,
no, go.
I was gonna say there's also a website, I'm blanking on the name, I'll put it when I remember, that actually people who have done interviews for the exact role you're looking for go there to put the questions that they asked them.
It's on Indeed. If you check Indeed, you see
Indeed is there, but there's another website. I'll put it when I remember. So literally, it's so good. It helped me a lot because
I think you even gave me.
I gave you. So if you can navigate it, you just see. The person will even say if they got accepted or not, and the questions. And literally, it's almost the same questions they would ask. Glassdoor. That's actually
Glassdoor is very helpful because also Glassdoor will help you know like the salary
range.
That's my best friend. I always because I don't know how much I'm earning. And I think it's also very good to talk to people. I remember before my internship, I was talking to you, I was talking to my other friends, and because I had known the kind of questions I would be asked. There was a question I was struggling with, was like, do you have any questions for us?
Yes.
And I knew that was a break. Like, if you can ask meaningful questions, that was it. And I think God really helped because I actually got my job the same day I did the interview.
Yeah.
And I remember the question I asked. The interview was like for 1 hour. We had been done like 30 minutes. The question I asked launched was like 15 more minutes.
Exactly.
Like they all went round. I can't remember. I think I asked something like, on my first day of job of the work, what would you expect of me? What are my deliverables and all of that? Like, how would you advise me to in a way that will make me flourish during the internship? And so it was to them, they said this is a very good question. They were advising me as if they knew me.
Exactly.
Also thought if I just stayed by myself, preparing by myself, I wouldn't.
You won't know this. Like I said, to talk to people. Yeah, those questions that you ask during the interview, don't just start don't just ask, oh, when do I start?
Or how much is the salary? You ask that. If it's me, I won't give you
the job. Those are things you can ask later, but let the first questions you ask me, like what's the company culture like, ask about opportunities for growth, ask about like now that I'm bringing these skills here, what do I take with me?
What do they love about working
I remember
there?
and then I also because the way it works here, or the way it works for me, they gave me the names of the people that were interviewing me, so I saw to
go and research
I saw that they had worked, each of them had worked in this company for like 10 years.
So
my question was, what has made you stay in this company for that time? Like, what would you say has made a difference that you want to stay? So something like just prepare, check resources, talk to people. And
the internet is your best friend.
And also
the people around you, and practice
with a mirror. I remember talking to myself. I'm like, okay, this is
practice
like
with friends. People can
practice.
give you feedback.
I practice my cousin as well. So just like talk the way you talk, like your posture, everything look good on that day. They told me it was business, and you did make one. I wore like a shirt and all of that.
So I feel like another thing about this interview thing is, you need to also, apart from the preparation, which is very important, like actually write down stuff and practice, but you need to be able to think on your feet. I think one thing that helped me get the internship that I got is because just God helping me to be able to connect what they were telling me that they do with an experience I've had before. So it was like so fast, and I just pinned it, and I was just saying, yes, how about this, and it just made them feel like, wow, this person was made for us. But that is not. You just need to think on your feet and be able to connect things very quickly.
And even if it's like your first job, connect things you've done in school, your personal life.
Yes, don't have to have. I don't have.
If you're a firstborn, say I'm a firstborn. If they ask for leadership skills, say I'm a firstborn.
The way you would talk about, like even the experiences I talked about. I remember on the job descriptions they talked about Lean Six Sigma. I've never heard about it. And so I thought it was like a course or this because they're like, so I went to check it out, and it was just like a way to eliminate waste. So when they asked me that, I just connected it. I was like, I'm also very proficient in Lean Six Sigma. I know how to eliminate. I know exactly. Like I never learned about Lean Six Sigma.
But it's things you have done in your life.
Yes. So I was like, I know how, like when I know how to delegate duties and to also stick so that everybody's on their toes and they know what exactly to do. There's no waste in time and resources.
Billions of people looking for jobs.
Plenty of if you got an interview, you need to handle it like a treasure, because it is, because out of 100 people, maybe they chose you for an, you need to be very, like, don't play with it basically.
And also living on that, the job I have now, like they retained me from my internship, and I remember I had to interview. I actually had to like apply, and since they saw that I worked there before and I got like good reviews and all that, so they took me. But when I was interviewing, a lot of the questions they were asking me were based on my experience in the company. As an international student, you don't just apply for a job and you're like, oh yeah, I got an offer letter, so when do I start? There's another monster called work authorization. So for those who don't know, as an international student, you are capped to 20 hours a week to work
on 40 hours a week on campus. No, it's 20. What am I saying?
20
on campus.
Internship is 40.
No, I'm saying
we're talking about normal.
During the semester, it's 20 on campus, and you're not allowed to work outside of school. And then maybe during internship, when you get an internship, if you're still on F1 and still within your program period, you can apply for CPT, which is internship. There are different departments and different programs, and different universities have different requirements for you to apply for work authorization. The first thing you should do is speak to your international student office. Make sure you know the rules. You don't want to get into trouble with the American government. They won't be so kind if you
carry you back to your
because you can't be working off campus without that work authorization. So I'm going to be speaking about my experience, and you guys can chime in on that. So when I got here and I got my offer for CPT or internship, you have to have an offer letter before you apply for work authorization. For post-study work, which is OPT, you can apply for OPT first before you get an offer. But now for this, I had to have an offer. Okay, so I'm like 3 months old or a couple of months old here, and I have my work authorization. I didn't know where to start. My department was very kind enough to and also my friends were kind enough to give me the direction. So I needed to speak to the international student office. They gave me the conditions. I think one was it needed to be part of a thesis or a project. The second one was what was it?
It needed to be part of a course.
Yeah, part of a requirement. It
course.
had to be a requirement by the program, and so I had to register credit hours for it. And there's another one I don't know, but we can can add it later. So when I got that, my department asked me to speak to the international student office, and they did, and they sent me all the requirements I needed to meet. And then they sent me a form that was to be filled by my department, because I'd already spoken to my department and told them that this job is I'm looking into going into this field, and this is related to my program in this. And also another thing is it has to be related to your program. You can't be doing something that's not related to your program. So they filled the form for me. They checked all the whatever they needed to check. Then I needed to send that to the international student office, and they had to do their verifications. They had to ask me questions about the job, blah, blah, blah. Another thing is apply early for it, because it takes time. Some people will get it in a short time because theirs is very clear, and their department and their students international student office is like not going back and forth. But yeah, it took quite a while for me, and I remember I got my work authorization the night before I needed to get my flight for my internship. Yeah, it was a very stressful 1 month for me because there was a lot of back and forth. So give yourself time. Also know that it's not a guarantee.
It's not automatic.
And it's not automatic. The fact that you have an offer letter does not mean you'll get work authorization. And companies here, one of the questions they ask you when you're applying is, do you need
sponsorship?
Answer should be no.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Even for internship.
For internship, yeah.
So while I was doing my background checks for the company and all that, they had given me a day by which I should upload or give them my work authorization and my documents, because they can't hide. You have to give them like your passport, even I-94, the I-20, the updated I-20, because you can't lie to them that I have work authorization.
You have to show proof.
Yeah, the university has to give you another I-20, and for people who don't know what an I-20 is, it's a document that the university gives you once you've met all the requirements to join the university. So you use that to apply for your visa. That becomes your second visa.
Yeah, a second passport. Yeah,
it's your second passport, your second visa. So once you sign once you get the work authorization, now the international student office will sign the I-20, that is the document now. And for internship, they'll also look at the offer letter. The offer letter has to have something. So for the university we are in, they usually want the offer letter to be on a company letterhead. it should have the address of the company, it should have your supervisor. No, they didn't even ask.
Oh, okay.
They didn't ask
the duties
yes, your responsibilities.
Yeah, your responsibilities, and then it has to be like a full-time job kind of. It has to be at least 40 hours a week. And then your start date and your end date, because the I-20 will have the work authorization will have the date you're starting, and you're supposed to just work within that period of time they give you to work. So you need to be very careful about that. Sometimes they'll ask you, like they ask you to ask your company to sign for something and stuff like that.
So it depends on your program.
It depends on your program. It's very program specific. So make sure, because even here we have different experiences only based on the fact that we do different programs. So if you ask me for advice on it, I'll give you based on my experience. But make sure you're talking to your department, you're talking to your program chair, you're talking to your international student office.
When you're praying to get internship, pray that you also get work authorization.
Yes.
Because
also
it's not automatic.
I think something that came as a shock. I didn't know I was gonna pay.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
So you're paying
Yeah,
for
you're
your
paying.
CPT.
Yeah.
So
So
for
you're
me,
eventually paying.
no, I'm paying because I'm paying. So it depends.
It's
Like
a class.
Angie had just one credit unit, so she paid for one credit. I'm paying for 3 credit units.
Oh, wow, I didn't realize
And
that.
because I don't have funding yet, like I'm paying
yeah,
for.
for the
So I'm
summer.
grateful that I have a job that I
An
actually pay
internship
for
that can pay for it,
but
yeah.
it's just
So that's another thing. If sometimes
And I'm not paying, so see
Yes.
how it's different.
It's very different. So for me, I had to register for it as a class, and that's 1 credit hour, and that is school fees that's paid. So you have to pay like thousands of dollars sometimes, for it. But sometimes you're looking at the money vis-a-vis the experience that you're getting, and sometimes it's just, and also what are you doing during the summer? Right?
Okay, so we're going to wrap up, but before we wrap up, I just want to talk about preparing for rejection. That's our last point. So we have all faced rejections,
especially some people.
especially me. I am the queen of rejections. Like literally today, they still rejected me. I started applying for internships last year, maybe September, October, or maybe I think September, and they are still rejecting me till now. I stopped applying like February or when was it that we got it? And they are still rejecting me. So
it's very normal.
So it's normal. 100 applications, 99 rejections, one
All you
interview.
need is one.
So make sure you don't internalize it or make it personal. Yes, and you can
Don't get attached.
Like don't get attached. Me, they even rejected me twice for one role. The same role. I'll share that story one day. I've already found Airbnb because I've done 4 stages of it. It's one thing when they don't call you for an interview, but when you've done 4 stages, I already had my house in the city. In the city where I had my house. I cried though. I wouldn't lie. It was very painful.
I know it was very painful for all of us because it was of course more painful for you.
Yeah.
But we had been
we were like planning.
And then when they rejected me the second time, we were like,
what's even wrong with that?
I didn't even pump EB up. EB, there's no way they can.
Yes, it's still already told me they're going to accept me. Because they said they wanted to call me.
What I did for me, because they sent me an email that we want to talk to you on phone and they gave me your first time. I was like, EB, you got this. I mean, I remember I was in the living room when even though it was 6 p.m. So when it was 6 p.m., I paused the show. She was trying to listen. And I thought I was not. I was like, hey God.
Yeah, they actually
and they're actually the ones that came back to you. It's not like you called them to convince them.
So they rejected me first, and that's what she was talking about. And then they called me back to come and do another, and then they rejected me again. That company, you know yourself. You know yourself. No, I won't call them out. But the thing is, by the time they were rejecting me the second time, I already had the offer. I'm taking.
A better offer, by the way.
Yes, actually, it was better offer.
Better offer, and we were like, please.
We just thank God. Because if it didn't go that way, it would have been very sad. So basically, the thing is, rejection is normal. Till today, they are still. I'm serious. They are still sending me rejection. I'm just like, I will not tired. So
1 year later is when they'll be calling you for
silence, rejection or silence.
I got silence.
I remember when I was applying for work, there's so many jobs I was applying, and sometimes when you're applying like on Indeed, and it's just like just send the offer letter, just send the resume. So you're sending resumes. At some point, I had a spreadsheet of the jobs that I was applying because sometimes this job looks. It looks like I've done this.
When they reject me, I scrape it up.
There's one I applied for. They said sorry, you've already applied. Like, oh yes, there was one that they sent me rejection. They said that they were other high caliber, including you. You are also high caliber, but
it's just like
there are other higher caliber.
Like rejections are, and I always say do not attach yourself.
Yeah,
do not attach your emotions
It's hard.
to it. It's hard, I know, but that rejection is not going to hit you very hard as much as sometimes you start building your life around.
I did. I found a church actually. I found a church that we'll be attending. I mean, we found the church where like this church will make sense.
Your own
we are gone for.
I've been telling her this for 2 years.
And I feel like I got attached to but not maybe it was very but maybe because you did.
I did like 4 stages of interview.
I think I've applied to too many jobs in my life. It's just like, okay, just apply. Yes, you have faith that it probably will happen, but I mean, just go on with your life like it's like okay. So whenever I see a rejection, it will hurt a little bit, but I'll be like, okay, we move on. I did my best.
We move. Yeah, okay, guys, this has been long but hopefully informative. Thank you guys for sticking around. Tell Angie and Lolade thank you in the comments.
And apply to those internships.
Yes, apply. Really apply.
1,000 of them, but something
at least you get 10. So thank you guys, and also like find a community of people doing this thing. I think that helped us because everybody in our house was applying, so we were always exchanging notes like, oh my god, look at this one, I have this interview. We all pray for each other. So I think that was also very nice. So it's good to find like people doing the same thing you're doing for ginger. So even if you're tired and you hear she has gotten her own, it was actually
Erica. Shout out to Erica. I remember my cousin had been telling me, start applying. I was like, see, I just got Erica told me she had interview
and you're not even
started. And I immediately started working on my CV like, okay, this is, so I feel like talking to people,
having people,
it really helps.
You can't come here and just be
alone.
Like, don't leave your independence information at the airport. Information, you don't need it. And also, we are coming from different backgrounds. Maybe at home you're well connected and
but now you don't know anybody.
And even if you do nobody, like even if you know one who that works in,
so what would they do?
You know me by connection.
It's true. Because I actually, now we're talking to me, but I actually knew someone in a particular company, and it didn't work. They still did not give me interview. Yeah, you know the company. They still did not give me interview, even if I knew the HR. So it's not automatic. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Please comment, like, share. All of the good stuff, subscribe.
Like, share, subscribe.
All right, see you in the next one. Bye.